Welcome to the MHP Exchange, where the riches are in the niches. We'll show you how to invest your way into mobile home parks with real strategies, tips, and behind-the-scenes know-how to grow your cash flow. Stick around. This is where smart investing begins.
A few weeks ago, I had come back from the gym and I'm starting my morning routine at the house, which includes a cup of coffee where I turn on my laptop and I start to go through the emails that may have come in overnight before I start my day. And I come across an email from a resident in a park that we had just acquired, a resident who I've met maybe 2 times. And it has some of the most abhorrent comments regarding our on-site manager, our on-site team, and the operations of things that are happening over there. And it's definitely an angry tenant. There's definitely something going on in his perception of things. And my initial reaction is to step in, or in reflection, do I let my system work? This is a situation, if you're scaling your business in the manufactured housing space, if you're an operator, you've probably come across, or you will come across, especially as residents have direct communication to you. And I'll tell you, early on in our journey in the manufactured housing space, Eric and I were the epitome of your hands-on operators. I mean, we were down on the ground. We were essentially managing these communities, even if we were from a distance. And I would say in our first 4 communities, every one of those new residents that came in, that purchased a home from us, we were integral in touching them, whether it was, on the initial intake call that I was fielding, in setting up the appointments, in virtually showing them or walking them through the home while they were there, and I'm 8 states away. We were intimately involved in the lease ups of these turnarounds. And in doing that, you end up having this personal relationship and personal bond with the residents that were there. They had equal access to us. I mean, our cell phone number was there. I had a lot of residents who were in my contact list, and some of those numbers still remain to this day. And that worked well in the beginning because we had to be that intimately involved to get those communities where they needed to be at that time. But as we started to scale and we were able to bring in people to handle those roles, who were now going to be the on-site manager, and we were going to step back from the day-to-day of making all those decisions, that system that worked so well in the beginning, it created some chaos. And maybe chaos is too strong. It created some dysfunction, because essentially, if a tenant had an issue and the manager or the on-site manager was dealing with it, the tenant felt they had the ability to come directly to the owners. And sometimes our decision may be different than what was the decision of the person on the ground. Because, and this may happen to you if you're building in the MHP space or any real estate related area, where maybe you have another business or you have other things going on at that time. In the midst of trying to resolve that issue while it pops up, you're trying to address it and move on, not realizing or not getting the entire story. And that did happen from time to time. And we realized some of the issue wasn't that the tenants were being bad people. It was, the issue was us getting in the way of where we set up processes and systems, and letting those processes and systems work, and letting the people on the ground who wired to make the decisions that we wanted them to make. Which brings me back to this incident. The tenant who sent me an email. Now, I'm not a very difficult person to find. If you wanted to send me an email, there's a lot of different platforms where you might be able to get my email to send me that. So while he didn't have my direct phone number, he did have my email. And so when I received this email, obviously I wanted to address it. So in addressing it, and part of the evolution was, let me get the details of what's happening here. Because I had met this gentleman, like I said, twice. When I get a complaint, I want to see what this complaint is, and I wanted to investigate it at least. And it turns out that the person in question had gone into the manager's office in the middle of the day, clearly inebriated, not happy, making some crazy accusations, and harassing some of the staff. And this is something that was apparently commonplace with this gentleman, as he was a volunteer. He had volunteered somewhere at the fire department, and he had been removed from that because of situations and behaviors like this. And again, everybody has their own battles they're fighting, and that's his battle. And I understand it. We understand that, but we also understand that it was getting to the point where he was making it uncomfortable for other people, and he was lashing out as he was drinking to the people that were there, even if they were doing their best. And I will tell you, everything that I grew up knowing from my background, was my initial reaction is always to step in, to get myself involved. I wanted to handle it, but I also knew what that would do to my manager. The person that we're bringing there on site to handle this, who was actually following the entire system and process that we had set up, and having her do that, and she had already been moving downfield. What would it look like if I now stepped in and said, no, I have to handle this situation? Sometimes leadership isn't about stepping in. It's just knowing about when to step back at the right time. So what did she do, and what we have, we instructed or coached our team members to do in situations like this? And if you're in the manufactured housing space, you're going to have residents. I mean, this is inevitable to happen. You're going to come across people who are in crisis, whether it's, drinking, whether it's drugs, whether it's mental health. I mean, we're in the business, not of bricks and sticks. We're in the business of people. And the more people that you're in business with, statistically speaking, the more chances that this is going to happen. So what do we talk to our team about doing in situations like this? Number one, always look to de-escalate. The people you're dealing with, they're going to be emotional, or they may be emotional. You have to be logical. So it means you can't allow the emotions of the other person to spill over to you and to react the same way that they're reacting. So that's number one. Number two, and this coincides with number one, it's safety first. When you have somebody or a resident there that's in some sort of distress, or that is being aggressive or harassing or menacing, always go in pairs. Take another team member with you, whether it's the manager going with the maintenance person or assistant manager. Make sure that there's two people there, that and this way it can So document. Let's go back. One, de-escalate. Look for ways to de-escalate the situation. That's so critical. The other person is dealing in emotion. You have to deal logically, and you have to look for ways to de-escalate the situation, because cooler heads will always prevail. Number two, safety first. Show up in pairs. Don't go there alone. If the person's being menacing, harassing, having somebody else there to ensure that the situation is safe for all parties is super important. Number three, document everything: the behavior, the concerns, the communications. Make sure you have clear records of that, because that's going to be so critical down the road. And then four, communicate the boundaries clearly. It's okay to let the resident know, or that type of behavior is not acceptable, and not acceptable in the community that you're running, and enforce those community rules where we have it clearly written out: no harassing, no threatening or menacing behavior is to be accepted by anybody in any of our communities. And if your team is doing that, you could put yourself in a much better solution. So for us at that time, this was not so much a question of the tenant testing us. This was a question of the discipline that we had set up. This was really the test. And knowing that the system that we had set up, the process that we had set up, was being followed, even though I wanted to jump in, even though my initial thought was to get in there and to disprove what this person is saying, even though there's no way to disprove it because he's obviously, going through something. It was to ensure that the process was being followed. And ultimately, by doing that and following that system, that resident has been removed from the community, right? But done so in the right way, without anything escalating beyond where it should be. And hopefully he's able to get the help that's needed. So my key takeaway from all of this, right, is that the growth that you're going to experience in your real estate investing career is when your team no longer needs you in every room. And you have to be okay with that. And that's where the growth really happens. So I ask you today, if you're listening, I'm going to ask you one question. Would you help someone who's learning how to find, fund, and operate a mobile home park? And if your answer is yes, then give this episode a rating and a comment on the streaming device that you're listening to. And if you share that review with us at the mhpexchange.com, we're going to send you a free copy of our after site visit report. That is the report that we use, and that we send to our teams to ensure that our business plan is being executed and that we're hitting the milestones that we need to hit. It creates accountability and value across the communities that we touch. Thank you for listening. Until next time, Frank Rizzo, MHP Exchange. Happy investing.